Dawson from sophiedawson.com, and this is episode 51 of the Sophie Art Podcast, which is a little podcast I do about art and things, and this one is going to be completely different to what I thought it was going to be, because I've been trying to record for the last couple of hours a podcast about my inspirational people, like some of my favourite inspirational people, but what I've realised is that things take longer than what you think. So that's what this podcast is going to be all about, and the inspirational people one will have to wait for next week. So you can find show notes and everything at sophiedawson.com. You can also find videos at youtube.com/sophiedawson. And I've just purchased a new little camcorder which records in better quality, and I tested it out just a minute ago and it seems to be working okay, but the batteries run dry now. The batteries run out, so I've gone back to this. But see what I mean? Even this takes longer. Even the intro to this podcast take longer than I think. And the good thing about doing these podcasts on video now is I really can't edit, because if I start editing I've got to edit video and that takes even longer. So I do like the fact that I now can't edit these things, but it's amazing how long stuff takes to do. So that's what this week's podcast is about. I really think it is going to be a tiny one this week. I just wanted to say a couple of things, because as I was trying to put this podcast together, or the other one, I started realising that a couple of people have said stuff, because what I've noticed is if you hear something that is really, I guess, wise, and it's really going to help you, it seems to pop into your head just at the right moment. So it's you almost forget about it, and then when something happens which is where you need that information, it just pops into your awareness. So there's two things that I remembered, and one was from Hammond, and the funny thing is both of these people are actually on the list of inspirational people. So the first one was from Hammond, and the second one is from Sean McCabe from SeanWest.com. And what Sean McCabe said was that whatever you want to do is going to take at least 3 times longer than what you think. So if you say to yourself, I'm going to do a drawing and it will take 10 minutes, the reality is it's probably going to take about 30 minutes. So if you've only got 10 minutes and you try to do a drawing, you're going to end up getting a bit frustrated because it's taking longer than what you think, and then you'll start rushing. And one of my affirmations on the website is, when you rush, you delay. So you really, I think at all costs you have to make sure you're not rushing stuff. But then that means you've got to have enough time, which means you have to put more time aside than what you think. And I didn't do that this morning. I thought I'd be able to put the podcast together in about an hour, but 2 hours later, and I've got all the footage, but the way I've recorded it, it's just going to be so hard to put together that I'd rather redo it. And I thought, I'm not redoing it now, so I'm going to redo that one next week. And I thought it'd be quite fun to just talk about what I realised in that moment. So that was the first thing I realised, was when Sean McCabe said about stuff takes longer than what you think. And the second thing is from Hammond. So Hammond is an artist who, when I read one of her books, which I've talked about so many times, and it's the book How to Draw Lifelike Portraits from Photographs. And in that book she said something which at the time was quite powerful, but ever since I've never forgotten about it. Well, like what I said earlier, sometimes you forget about it, but you never forget about it. And what she said was, it was when drawing hair, so she's all about drawing realistic portraits, that's what the book's about. And during the chapter with the hair, she said, when you're drawing hair, when you think you're finished, you're probably not even halfway there. And the whole point of drawing hair is you have to just keep going on and on. It's all about layers with drawing hair. Layers of different colours or different tones, like dark and lights, and so you just have to keep working it, and then you'll look at it and think, I'm done. But she says, and it is true, that you're not done because it's not going to look thick enough. If you really want it to look realistic and really nice, you've got to keep going. And sometimes it can get a bit tedious because you might have been there for like 2 hours just drawing this hair over and over. But I love drawing hair, but even like with a love of drawing hair, sometimes you do sort of think, right, I want to move on to something else now. So you could move on to something else, but you're still going to have to come back and finish it. And I always like to try to work it to the point where I feel like it's finished, but even then it's still not, because you'll go and do other things and realise you need to come back, which is quite strange. But when she said that, she said, when you think you're finished, you're actually not. And it's something I've noticed with a lot of things, that you'll do a drawing or something and you think you're finished, but you realise you're not, you're only like halfway there. So I realised that today, those two quotes really seem to be quite important, and it's just made me think again about how it's this balance between planning, but you also have to, whilst you're doing things, you have to start monitoring how long things take, so that next time you go to do something, you have a better understanding of how long it's going to take. Because I was starting to get a little bit frustrated, and that's why I didn't re-record that podcast today, because I could tell that I was going to be too sort of frustrated trying to record it. So I thought, what I'm going to do instead, because I always say nothing is ever wasted, I said what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use that as a little like learning experience or something, and I thought I'd just turn it into the podcast, which is quite funny. So this is probably going to be the shortest ever episode that I've done, but I think there's like an important message in there. It's that stuff takes longer than what you think. So that's this week's podcast, episode 51 of the So Free Art podcast. There's no books or little art tips or fascinating facts on this one, but there will be in the future, but they'll be sprinkled in when it seems appropriate. But actually there was one on this one, which was Lee Hammond's how to draw lifelike portraits from photographs, and there's also a little art tip really with the hair. And the fascinating fact is that stuff takes longer than what you think. So that is this week's podcast. This week's inspirational quote actually goes to Lee Hammond, and it is, repetition is the key to learning, practice is the key to success. Lee Hammond.